Good morning and welcome to this, the first in a three-part series of Dialogue with the Mayor. My name is Jay Roundy. I'm the immediate past chair of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. Our current chair, Steve Wagoner, was called out of the country, and he asked me to fill in for him today and asked that I thank you all for being here, and a special thanks to Mayor Scott Smith for agreeing to these briefings. Thank you, Scott. In the past, the State of the City address has been delivered in January as part of a regular council meeting. And I'm sure today we're going to hear some of that, but a big part of what we're trying to do today, as indicated by the title of today's meeting, is dialogue. He wants to hear from us as well. So if you have questions, issues that you'd like raised in today's meeting, please fill out the cards that are provided on your table and turn those in to the chamber staff who will make themselves available to collect those. Before we get into the program, I especially want to thank our sponsors for helping us to host this breakfast with the mayor. Our corporate sponsor is Dibble Engineering. Thank you very much. Thanks to Dibble Engineering for your generous support. Our table of sponsors include Sun Eagle Corporation, Burge Ford, Sunt Construction, Thompson's Auto Repair and Towing, Arizona Pipeline, Intellis Incorporated, Southwest Ambulance, Boeing, Hunter Contracting, and First In Inc., Pierce Manufacturing. Thank you, table sponsors.
Yes, that one's you.
And a very special thank you to AmeriCopy for being our print sponsor for this event. Thank you to all of our sponsors. As always, we want to also thank our dedicated officials and recognize those that have joined us this morning. We have with us, and if you would please stand so we could recognize you, Representative Cecil Ash, Representative Steve Court, from our Mesa City Council, Kyle Jones, Scott Summers, Dave Richens, Dennis Kavanaugh.
Oh, did he send it?
From the Corporation Commission, Gary Pierce.
Here, don't make any noise.
Thank you all very much for your dedicated service to our city, state, county. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Paul Mariniak, Community Editor of the Arizona Republic. Paul?
Good morning. Thank you, Jay. Welcome to what the Chamber and I hope will be an informative and enlightening program. And to kick it off, our first speaker is Bill Jabjiniak, Economic Development Director for the City of Mesa. Bill took his present position in October of 2007 and brought with him more than 25 years of result-driven vision and leadership in revitalization strategies, public-private partnership opportunities, project financing, and business recruitment. And prior to his move here, he served as Director of Economic Development and later as Business Management Officer for the city of Richmond, Virginia, and prior to that, he was the Destination Manchester Coordinator and held other positions in the city of Manchester, New Hampshire. And I'm sure he's feeling very happy that he's not in New Hampshire this morning. So without further ado, I present Bill Jabjiniak.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. You're right. I'm glad I'm not shoveling anything these days, that's for sure. But, you know, I know this is billed as a dialogue with the mayor, but I want to take a few minutes and just review where we've been since July when we were last together. But I think what's important is there's a little clip from Saturday Night Live that is very indicative of the mayor's directive on economic development in Mesa. And if you don't mind, I'd like to take this and go ahead and play that for a minute.
It's been a rough week on Wall Street. Today alone, the Dow plunged 678 points, closing below 9,000. Here to talk more in depth about the economic crisis is Weekend Update's new financial expert, Oscar Rogers.
Hello.
Hello, Oscar.
Hello, Seth, Amy.
It's good to see you. Thanks for coming. Now, we all know that our current economic situation has left every American fearful of what's in store. Oscar, do you see any light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, Seth, there was a light, but it's broken. And somebody needs to crawl down to the end of that tunnel and fix it.
Okay, well, that doesn't sound very promising.
It's not. These people need to fix it. I've been a financial consultant for 16 years, and I've never seen it this out of control. They need to clamp it down and fix it. When I wake up tomorrow morning, it better be fixed.
But how do we go about fixing it specifically?
Take it one step at a time. Identify the problem, fix it. Identify another problem, fix it. Repeat as necessary until it's all fixed.
You keep saying fix it, but how?
Fix it.
Fix what?
It needs to be fixed. Now.
Any final words? Although I do think I know what they're going to be.
Oh, yeah? Well, what do you think I'm going to say, Seth?
I don't know, probably.
Fix it! Fix it! Fix it!
Oscar Rogers, everyone!
Thank you. And it really isn't that bad, but I think that's just indicative of, we need to fix some things. But there's a lot of good things that are going on out there as well. And it's been a busy 7 months, and I'd really like to just take a moment and hit this timeline, because in July, there's been Empire Southwest, which is the 5th largest privately owned business in Arizona, was annexed into the city. That brings in, about 1,500 jobs, maybe even a little bit more, about a $25 million worth of expansion. In August, we had a $17 million line of credit that was actually applied for, which is a great economic development tool. Banner Baywood opened their emergency room. In September, who can forget about the Gaylord and DMB announcement? And I know the mayor is going to get into this a little bit more in some detail, but a minimum of 1,200 resort hotel rooms, 225,000 square feet of net convention space, a PGA Championship golf course, retail with Mesa and Westcore. That's something to keep in mind. Embraer, they opened their $10 million investment in an MRO facility at Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. That's significant in the month of September. In October, we get into Waxy, warehouse and distribution. We turned dirt, little groundbreaking event, Arizona Regional Medical Center. What a great save that was for the center of Mesa, downtown in particular. We had Riley Aviation open a variety of hangars. And did you also know that Mesa received an award in October for being one of the top 5 in the country in aerospace? For what we have, what our abilities are in the future, and I think the workforce is a significant part of that. And then getting into November, Allegiant grew so fast that they actually made a loan to the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport to accommodate their growth. That's significant when you have an airline making a loan to an airport authority. Another great example of a partnership, the Chamber of Commerce. Their business retention program, they partnered with us to reach out to 72 different businesses that we probably only been able to reach to a fraction of. That's an example of partnering to reach to our existing. But remember, 80% of your growth is going to come from existing businesses. Into December, Hawker Beechcraft finished their facility, again, an MRO facility down at the Gateway. In January, we had the former Banner Mesa facility open on Country Club. There will be 1,200 jobs in an adaptive reuse facility there. What a great way to facilitate their growth by reusing one of their buildings for their corporate uses. Cessna, and just yesterday we were down there with the formal event, but in January they also received their first plane for their MRO facility. It's 100,000 square feet. Great stuff. And already here in February, just the other day, Toby Keith, I love this bar and grill. They're ready for opening. They're actually in the hiring process. Got a great response to that. And Sole Focus. Last summer I spoke briefly about Sole Focus, our little solar company up around Falcon Field. That is actually is not so much of a small business anymore. They've started their expansion. They will have 160 jobs approximately by July. And that's just the first phase of expansion. We're hoping to help them continue to grow. So, despite the gloomy economy, I want to read a few facts. These projects that were scrolling previously, while we were having breakfast, they totaled 16,502 jobs. They had over $1.5 billion of investment and over $500 million of payroll. So here's a few more facts. Working with GPEC, been a great partner. Arizona Department of Commerce, another great partner. Prospects are up 7.5% to date. International prospects are up dramatically to the tune of 386%. In this economy, we're up 386% in international prospects. That's significant. And with Mesa's focus on quality development, which brings quality jobs, we're actually seeing 58% of that pipeline being high-wage components. What does all that mean? And to wrap up, despite being in some uncharted territory, good things are happening. The time to invest is the bottom of a cycle. As Warren Buffett says, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. And economic development is a team sport. There's room for a lot of people to play in the game, if you will. You can never have too much help, and we've got off to a great start with people like the Chamber of Commerce and GPEC and the state, East Valley Partnership, the educational institutions which are represented here today. They're all necessary to continue some of this success that we've had. And we need to focus our resources even more. It's important that we certainly make the adjustments necessary, double our efforts, or I call double down, if you will, and then go forward strong with a very focused attention to detail to make some significant things happen in the very near future. So with that, I thank you.
Listen, I want to thank you so very much for the opportunity I have this morning to be with you. I would like to say that the clip that Bill said was indicative of our instructions, but that was way more deep than what we normally talk about. Okay. One way we were going to wake you up, that's for sure. You know, when I looked out there and saw everyone here, I thought, boy, the pressure is really on. You paid $40 a ticket to come here this morning, which the Chamber of Commerce thanks you, because this is both to be here, but also to help out our Chamber of Commerce. So thank you so very much for supporting us and for supporting them. And then I looked and saw that for $40, you know, there would, what would we get out of this? But that's okay. You're going to get a great breakfast. Then I saw we had Hot Pockets and corn dogs, and I thought the pressure's really on. Actually, they were raving, Councilmember Kavanaugh and the Vice Mayor were raving about our breakfast. Thank you so very much to the Hilton for supporting us. The Hilton is a great partner for all we do here in Mesa. We have a lot of events here, and they are so gracious in how they take care of us as a community and the investment they make in the community. I'd like to start by saying one thing. You went over you heard some things that Bill Jebginiak talked about. Some of the successes we've had. Some of the things that have gone well in the last few months. And there are good things happening in this community. I want to tell you that what I'm going to talk about are some challenges, but also some good things. But I want to let you know one thing. Although I, as mayor, am the presiding officer of the city. I guess that's a good way to describe it. I have a city council, and you have a city council that I am privileged to work with. There are 7 of us on the city council, and when we cast those ballots, those votes, each of us count equally. And we could not accomplish what we are doing, and I certainly could not accomplish without a council that gets it. You have a council, a city council that gets it. We don't agree on everything. We have some lively debate, but at the end of the day, they get the program, we get the program, we work together toward one end, and that's building a better Mesa. See, Councilmember Richards, I already said it. Thank you very much. Who won the bet this morning? You, Councilmember Richards. They have an over and under as to when I will say building a better Mesa, and Councilmember Richards won it today. Now, Steve, which button do I hit here? Oh, well. And building a better Mesa is what it's all about. We've talked about this since last July. We've talked about what it takes to build a better community and that it's not a spectator sport. Building is an activity that requires involvement, that requires hard work, that requires doing something besides sitting on the sidelines and watching. And it also takes accepting what you have, whether it's a flat piece of ground or whether it's a rocky piece of ground, and whether it's good, bad, or in the middle, and building it to a better level. So no matter how we are in Mesa, no matter what we find in Mesa, we can make it better. And it's not that it's not good to begin with, and a lot of things we're going to talk about today, we're doing a very good job in, but we can do better. We can always do better. And that's our mantra. Let's take what we have and let's make it better. And we can only do this as a community. There's not one person, one organization, one group that can build a better community. Only the community can do this. I like to tell people and remind people that Mesa did not become what it is, well, in a good way, because of its city government. You know, there's a lot of challenges and a lot of things that this community has faced over the many years. And the city government didn't bring us out of those. How did we get here? We got here through individuals working together in their churches, in their schools, in their groups, and through the city government to build a better community. And that's why it is a community effort. Let me go back real quickly to review what we talked about on last July. And in July, we made certain commitments and promises to the community as a city government as to what we'd do. And I'd like to give you an update as to where we are. First of all, we promised that we would do better. Well, it's for you to determine whether we're doing a better job or not. I think a lot of good things have happened. I believe that between the city staff and the community, we are trying and we are focused on doing a better job. And I think in a lot of areas you can see tangible results of what we're doing. We are committed to being better. The jury's still out. It's still early to see how successful we'll be, but we are doing better. We talked about listening. We will listen, and we have listened. We've already begun in the mayor's office groups, development groups, business groups, faith-based groups, where they have come into our office and we've had formal and informal discussions to figure out what this community really thinks, to figure out how they're handling the crisis that we're in, and to try and listen so we can be better responsive to the needs of the community. We'll think differently. There's a lot of things we've done that are drastic changes in how the thinking is, not only for Mesa, but for the state. Our Gateway Strategic Plan is a great example. Our form-based zoning out at Mesa Proving Grounds. The approaches we've taken to other areas in the city are drastic changes from the conventional way of thinking. We are thinking differently. We can always think even more differently. We want to try new things, better things, not just because we want to try things differently, but because we believe that's the way we can build a better community. We will be loyal. We're not there yet, but we've taken some initial steps to support Mesa businesses. We've had a couple of what would you call those, forums, seminars, meetings, where we've invited in Mesa businesses to come into our city offices, and with the help of the chamber, our purchasing department, our economic development, have given them an insight of what it takes to do business with the city of Mesa. We've implemented programs for professionals, so they have basically a first shot at getting city work. We are implementing and instituting actual programs that we believe will help Mesa-based businesses do business with a Mesa city government. We will continue these efforts. And we will make economic development a top priority. As you can see by the fact that Bill Jibginiak came before I did, economic development is important to us. It is important. Now, you know, there's some people in our community, in all communities, that believe that economic development is not a proper role for government. They should not be involved in economic development because by doing so, they somehow interject themselves into the marketplace and that they end up picking winners and losers. Well, I beg to differ. I think economic development is not only an appropriate function for a government, especially city government, but it's necessary for city government. As we're seeing right now, economic development and the economic activity in a city and in a community determines the general health of that community. We as a city government have a vested interest in the health of our community. We need our community to grow, to prosper. We're not here to pick winners. We certainly don't want to pick losers. We want everyone to win. We believe it is not only proper, it is our responsibility to nurture an environment where businesses and individuals, because it's in our interest as a community and as a city government for there to be a vibrant economic community. So economic development will continue to be a major point of emphasis for us, or the major point of emphasis, because we believe that all things, or many things in our city, flow out of the economic health and activity. We do face some challenges. The first challenge, I don't need to talk much about where we are, other than fix it, right? Money will continue to be a challenge. I don't know how long money will be a challenge. None of us know how long money will be a challenge. But it will continue to be a driving force in what we do in our community and our city government. It'll shape our approach to things. One of our challenges is to continue with the changes we've made in our government. Because of the financial crisis and because of some of the other objectives that we had, we have made major changes in how we do business in the city of Mesa. This will be a continuing challenge to make sure that those changes don't exist just for change's sake, but they exist to make us better, to do things better. That will be a continuing challenge with us. We have to get used to the fact that we are now focusing not on the quantity of services we provide as a city, but on the quality of services. Unless things improve, the quantity of services will continue to decrease. It's a question of mathematics. We cannot write checks that won't clear the bank. It's that simple. When you do that, you have to balance the amount of services with the amount of resources you have. Other than an increase, massive increase in the amount of resources, which I certainly don't see on the horizon, we will have to focus on doing more with less. And that's a challenge we're ready for. That's a challenge we're up to. That's a challenge we accept, willingly accept, because we also see that as an opportunity to do things better, to do things more efficient, to do things more effectively. And so that when we do come out of this downturn, we will be able to be a stronger, better, and more successful community. Customer satisfaction will be the #1 priority. And it's a huge challenge to keep our customers, and our customers are anyone with whom our city government comes in contact. Our citizens, obviously, are first and foremost. Our employees, the other cities in our region, any of those who do business with us, that is our #1 priority. Because as we develop a satisfied base of customers, I believe the resources that we have at our disposal will be increased. I believe that we'll build on success, and we'll be well established for any crisis, for any opportunity, and that's what we're here for. We need to take advantage of those opportunities. It's easy to get distracted and to constantly look and see all the challenges that are out there, especially the financial challenges. And to be so focused on those that you forget that this is a long-term process. Life is a marathon. What we're in now is a very, very taxing sprint. You know, if you've ever run or if you've ever done exercise, this is when we're working on, you know, what is it, the anaerobic, where basically you're just going by on what you've built up in your system. But you can't forget that there's a finish line there, and beyond that there's another finish line and another finish line. We need to balance our ability to deal with the current crisis, but also take advantage of those opportunities that present themselves. And as Bill said, they continue to present themselves. They continue to be there. I'll bring up the subject that nobody really likes to talk about because it's difficult to have a rational and reasonable discussion on immigration. Immigration will continue, though, to be a challenge for this community. Immigration, because of the status where we are from top to bottom, from the federal level down to the local level, will put a strain on our resources. It'll certainly put a strain on our city resources. Why? We're trying to balance effective law enforcement with rights of individuals, with the need to bring order to this process. We have been, I'll be blunt with you, the federal government loves it when the city governments step in and do their job for them, takes the pressure off of them. We have been, since we're at the bottom level of that, we have been dumped on as a local community and been asked to do things that really we should be only doing in partnership with others. This will continue to be an ongoing challenge for us. We have come out with an immigration policy. We continue to work to keep that balance. When in an era where, like I said, we have a lower quantity of resources, we still have to balance that. It will be an ongoing challenge. Economic development will continue to be a top priority. It will continue to be the thing that drives us because, to me, it will be the thing that serves as the foundation for our better community. It's the foundation that all other things are built upon. And I'd like to go over with you a few of the things we're going to concentrate on and emphasize in our economic development activities. Now, these are not everything that's going on in the city of Mesa, but they're points of emphasis, and I'd like to talk to you about exactly why we would be emphasizing, because Mesa is really the best kept secret in this state. You know, it's amazing that as the third largest city, we're virtually unknown. Part of that is the nature of who we are. Mesa's always been an independent, different thinking community that has thrived and succeeded in ways that other communities, believe it or not, don't quite understand. They still don't get it how we can have one of the top-ranked school districts in the entire country. They still don't get it how our arts programs and our athletic programs and those kind of things thrive in spite of the challenges they have. They never have got it. Well, I don't care if they ever do get it. It's our community will do what we can to succeed. But what we have is in this best kept secret, we have some resources that we don't even realize we have. And we're going to work on these resources, and we're going to work on these opportunities to make this, to emphasize and to focus on them, because I think that in anything you do, you should work on your strengths. Not going to Larry Fitzgerald or losing in the last 30 seconds. Oh well. Someday I'll get over this. I promise not to get emotionally involved in sports after sitting in the parking lot from John Paxson and his three-pointer. Nobody remembers that, right? Yeah. And then being at the Rose Bowl and watching Ohio State march down the field, and then sitting in the parking lot next to a car full of Ohio State supporters. I was emotionally scarred by that, I want you to know. And I swore never to get emotionally involved in sports teams again. And then those dang Cardinals. Oh well. But, you know, they work to their strengths. Well, in Mesa, we need to work to our strengths. Our strengths are small business, and our strengths are those industries in which we really thrive, that most people don't even realize that they're industries in which we really thrive. Now, we came up with these pillars of Mesa's economic, something that our Steve Wright, our public information, came up with. We figured for $40, you needed some fancy words. So, pillars of Mesa's economic enterprise. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn up the heat. Now, the first thing we're going to do to build economic activity is we're going to continue to create an environment where government regulation is lessened, where processes are streamlined, where we can establish an environment where businesses can succeed. That's going to be our first and foremost priority, because that affects the economic activity from top to bottom. Small business, medium-sized business, large business. But we are going to also focus on those industries where we are already strong. We're going to focus on what I would call our Larry Fitzgerald industries. The first one is healthcare. Healthcare, and by the way, these four industries also happen to be the four largest employers in our economy, and are four of the largest, the ones with the most future opportunity as measured both locally, statewide, and nationwide. Healthcare. We have a great healthcare presence we'll get into in just a little while, and a lot of investment that's going on in Mesa. The next one is education. The third one is aerospace. Most people don't realize the fact that we are, once again, in the top 5 aerospace communities in the entire country. We don't realize, we take for granted what we have, and we do not understand the significance of our aerospace industry. The last one, tourism. And we'll get into this a little bit because, you know, it's funny as we go through, that tourism actually is a mixed bag with many people. And I'll explain exactly what we're talking about. The first thing we'll talk about is healthcare. In the recent year or two, we have had, I would guess, close to $1 billion in new investment in healthcare and facilities in the Mesa area. In Mesa especially, and if you count Banner Gateway, which is actually in Mesa until Gilbert came out and took a little piece of it, but we'll call it ours. We have that. This is the Children's Hospital, a rendering of the Children's Hospital at Banner Desert. And of course, it's already topped out, moving toward completion. We also have the Banner Heart Hospital, ranked as one of the top heart hospitals in the entire country within our community. We have Banner Baywood. We have Banner Desert. We have this new facility. I'm going to add a little bit something that the Banner down here at the old Banner Mesa, Mesa Lutheran for those old timers, down here just off of Country Club and Brown. I want to add a little bit something to that. This not only will contain 1,200 administrative jobs, it also becomes the entire Banner Systems data IT center. Gigantic building which has huge data facilities for the entire system. This will be the primary data facility for the entire Banner system. Now, if you've been to a hospital lately, either visiting or whatever, you'll understand that paper no longer exists in a hospital. Most things are electronic, and we're not talking just scanning things in. Do you realize that where healthcare is moving, that when you're hooked up to a monitor in a hospital, that monitor is tracked in a central data facility in your patient record? The amounts of data that are coming into the healthcare is incredible. Anything they do, they'll swipe, they'll scan, but even the electronics are all monitored. They're explaining to us, they've come to a point, hopefully, where in certain ICU facilities and other things, that they will actually have a bank of doctors in a central facility that will be able to monitor patients from 1 mile or 100 miles or 1,000 miles away, both through data input and all through video input. That's where we're moving. This is all headquartered in Mesa. There's also an educational component we'll get to in just a little while. The next thing is AT Still. AT Still is Mesa's first medical school and dental school. Not its only, it's its first medical school and dental school. We have the new Arizona Regional Medical Center in the old Mesa General. An investment by private doctors to create a unique facility that offers both emergency and specialized services. We have the new IASIS Mountain View Hospital out on Baseline and Chrisman. All these new facilities are facilities with new investment. And one thing that's sort of a hidden gem that we're going to talk about a little bit is the VA facility out at Gateway. Last year, 75,000 cases went through that VA facility at the Gateway Airport. That's 75,000. That's a lot of activity. It's in the old Williams Air Force Base Hospital, but they're looking at they're at a point where we need to look at their future. What are our objectives in healthcare? First of all, we need to put as our top priority creating increasing and improving the trauma care in East Valley. Whether this is a level 1 facility, a level 2 facility, whatever it is, we need to realize that we are at the center of nearly 1 million people, and that our trauma care is not up to standard to what it needs to be, not only for today, but in the future. We need to work both as a community and as a region to improve our trauma facility. The Arizona Republic just did a very good series explaining the different challenges to trauma care. Trauma care is not easy. It's difficult. It's difficult to find the human resources. It's difficult to find the physical resources. It's difficult, certainly, to find the financial resources. But it's something that's essential to our community. We're going to focus on that. The second thing is, as I mentioned, the VA Medical Center at Gateway. They're coming up on their lease. We are already working with ASU and with others to try and create a permanent facility and a permanent presence of the VA medical staff in the Gateway area so that they don't have to leave, so they can continue to do that. One thing we want to focus on is taking our medical and our healthcare to that next level. Mesa does a very good job in what I would call retail healthcare. Retail is patient care, standard care, even heart care. I'm just talking about the things that they sell to you and I. For us to be able to move to that next level, We need to get more into the next level, which is research, development, and things such as education and clinical programs. We are a city of nearly 500,000 people in an area, as I've said, of nearly 1 million people. We are seriously underserved by our medical education. As one of our goals, we want to attract additional medical education, including a medical school to Mesa, an additional medical school. AT still does a great job in training doctors. They are our first. We need to attract additional research facilities, establish clinical programs which do not exist not only in Mesa, but very few in the entire city. That's one of our challenges in Arizona, is that we don't have residency programs, we don't have clinical programs that help us retain doctors in the state. Even graduates from the University of Arizona Medical School, many of them do not stay in the state because they leave the state for residency programs. We can be a major player in providing this, and we will put forth the effort to do this. The next thing is education. You know, we have resources we don't even realize in Mesa, and I'd like to point one of those out to you, which is the Power Road, what I call the Power Road Knowledge Corridor. Power Road, there was an article in the paper about how it's going to gain significance as a major north-south thoroughfare with a lot of activity. Well, if you start up north around Power and McKellips and head south, there's also a significant educational presence in Power Road. You look at that corridor, take Power Road as a center, and you look at the possibilities in that and building on what we already have, and the possibilities are endless. We start with Mesa Community College and the Red Mountain campus up around Power and McKellips. We go to the Mesa Public Schools facilities at Brown and Power, which includes Red Mountain, and also their Academy for Advanced Studies, which is open now for what, about 2 years, Deb? 2 or 3 years? Which is a signature program for advanced studies in the Mesa Public Schools. We come down to the AT Still, like I've talked about, which is right off of Baseline and Record. We look at, most people don't realize University of North Dakota has a presence at Gateway. They do pilot training there. Significant. EVIT has recently announced the establishment of a branch campus that they're going to build at EVIT. ASU Polytechnic has also talked about a charter school they're building there. And then, of course, with ASU Polytechnic being sort of the center and the major facility, 10,000 students. Notwithstanding the budget problems, we will work diligently. We'll do whatever we can to make sure that ASU Polytechnic gets the resources it needs, because it is so essential to the future growth not only of Mesa and the East Valley and the Gateway area, but our state. We need this type of program. We need this type of presence, and we need to be able to maximize the benefits of having a polytechnic university in our state and in our area. And then, of course, Chandler Gilbert Community College. We just talked about, or Bill talked about going to the Cessna grand opening yesterday, and they made a point of emphasis to talk about their interaction with both Chandler Gilbert and ASU Polytechnic, and how they are working together with those two institutions to create economic activity and to create the kind of synergy that you can get when business and education works together. If we take, for example, just this asset we have, combine it together and work together, we have a true P20 type presence there. I haven't mentioned the other things we have in the city, such as NAU and their partnership with Mesa Community College, with the other institutes of higher education, University of Phoenix, Ottawa. We have a great university and primary school presence. We need to do a better job of maximizing that asset. Our objectives? We need to take full advantage. We have underutilized assets. We have a great school system. We have a great community college. We have a university system that is, while university presence, while it's in its infancy, only has a very, very bright future. We're underutilizing that as a community. We're not recognizing the educational assets we have. We need to take better advantage of those. We need to improve the business and education connection. Like I mentioned, Cessna working together with Chandler Gilbert on a specific issue. But we have other things that we have implemented, and once again, a lot of things we're already doing, we just need to take them to that next level. We're going to focus on that, working with the schools, with the universities, to take advantage and improve those business education. Universities and colleges. Bill mentioned what Warren Buffett said. We're down in downtime. I'm greedy. I'm sorry. I want to be greedy. I love the presence we have right now. I love MCC. I love AT Still. I love ASU Polytechnic. I love Chandler Gilbert. All those. They're great. So I'm not demeaning what we have. It's not enough. Mesa is a city of 500,000 people with a major economic impact. Go to other communities in the country and look and see if they have this type of higher education presence. We have barely scratched the surface of our potential in providing higher education in this community. We need to do better to attract other providers, additional providers. There is plenty of room in the market for everybody to thrive. We need to go after liberal arts colleges, universities. We need to increase, as I've said, our medical and healthcare educational component to bring in some outside universities, colleges, systems, programs that are willing to establish a presence and an operation in this valley and in this area, which has so much potential and is so underserved in many areas. And we need to focus on our aerospace to create aerospace education. We have the desire, we have the great opportunity, and most of all, we have real estate. This is huge when you're looking at education. One of the things that this city council did, which I think is very, very progressive, is that we've decided we're not in the real estate business anymore. Now, the city of Mesa owns a lot of real estate. So a lot of people are asking, well, what do you mean by that? Well, before we sort of took the approach that real estate was an asset, an excess asset that was meant to be sold to the highest bidder. That may be the case in a few very small parcels or parcels that don't have economic opportunity. We're in the economic opportunity business, and we have a valuable asset that creates economic opportunities, and that's real estate. We're the largest landowner in downtown Mesa, between 50 and 60 acres of undeveloped land in downtown Mesa. Look at downtown Mesa. We talk about what the future could be. Well, I tell you one thing that the future could include is if you're looking at an urban environment with a light rail that's coming through in a couple of years, with that's a transportation center with a lot of real estate, that in a city that is willing to use that asset to create economic opportunities that will benefit the community, we're open for business. We're not here simply to sell dirt. We're here to use that dirt and leverage that to create economic activities. That is a major emphasis of this city council. It is something that staff has embraced. It's something we're going to work hard toward. And we see education as being a large potential user of our downtown urban real estate holdings. And we're willing to be open for business to explore those possibilities, and those will be a major emphasis for us. The next thing is aerospace. Once again, we talk about Falcon Field. We talk about Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. Few cities in this country have two major airports. Phoenix Mesa Gateway with its huge potential. Falcon Field, one of the top 5 general aviation airports in the entire country. We have Boeing, one of the largest employers in our community. We have MD Helicopters, who is gaining an international reputation in selling things. You know, we have helicopters that are flying around in Europe and Asia and Latin America with a Mesa, Arizona built-in tag. It's something that we need to work on. We've now, as Bill said, we've expanded that, and we've now become the business jet maintenance hub of the entire western U.S. Cessna just opened, grand opening yesterday. Embraer opened a couple months ago. Hawker Beechcraft has opened. Those are just form the base of a great potential to bring people in from outside of this community and experience it. We need to build on what we have. We need to protect the Boeings and the MDs and the Embraers and those things. We also need to move to actively bring in the suppliers and headquarters. Once again, research and development. That's how we create these high paying and this economic activity. We want to become a national center in aerospace research and development. There are already activities underway to work on building partnerships with business and education to establish such a presence in Mesa. And I think there will be information coming out on that quickly. Tourism. Most of you at your desk, I hope you've looked at the rendering of Gaylord. Gaylord's a big deal. I don't need to say anything. Prop 300 is a big deal, so a little bit pitch for yes on Prop 300. The type of, not only is Gaylord a big deal, but the type of arrangement we have, I believe, is the right kind of private-public partnership. It's the right kind of thing where the investment and the risk is in the proper place, and where government is helping to establish the foundation without taking undue risk and without putting our general fund monies at risk. It's the future of how we're going to do deals, but it's also the present opportunity that we have. Spring training, golf, our museums, those are all assets that we already have. We have our downtown, which is underutilized. The Mesa Arts Center. By the way, that's a great picture. If you want copies, my son took that picture, and it's an awesome picture. The temple, the amphitheater. We have a lot of assets that we don't realize, and we're underutilizing. The first thing, tourism is not a dirty word. You know, when we announced Gaylord, what surprised me is a lot of the criticism we got that, oh my gosh, what a waste. We're just bringing in tourism. Tourism is, depending upon what you read, is either the third or the fourth largest industry in this country. It's one of the major industries in our state. If we play to our strengths, for example, we have sunshine. We have beautiful vistas. We have opportunities. People want to come here. Why would we not emphasize that and take everything we can? People want to come here from outside of Mesa. To me, tourism is not just somebody from Illinois or Indiana. It's also someone from Scottsdale, Peoria, Phoenix. Anyone who does not live in Mesa, we want them to come into our community and leave their dollars. That is tourism. So our tourism efforts need to be both local, regional, and national. The second thing is we need to raise the bar. We're doing a good job on tourism right now, but the game has changed. I call it the Gaylord standard. One of the things that disappointed me most about when we announced Gaylord is some of the detractors say, why would anyone want to come to Mesa? You know, that's probably the biggest disappointment I've had as mayor, is to see that people don't believe in our community. And they would say, ooh, why would they want to come here? Well, I'll tell you, we have a great community. If you look at that rendering, the vistas, the opportunity we have, we need to get over this where we're not Scottsdale. We don't want to be Scottsdale, we want to be Mesa. We can still raise the bar. We can still go after that type of tourism dollar, once again, both local and national, that will be commensurate with the standard that Gaylord is going to set. They have set a very high standard for us. We need to meet that standard. We need to better take advantage and leverage our spring training dollars. It's not enough just to have the Cubs train here when people aren't leaving their money in Mesa. Right now, they're not leaving enough of their money. We need to leverage off of our spring training and treat it as the business that it truly is. Spring training is no longer a quaint little activity. It is a major business. We are not taking enough advantage of that. The other thing is, and we will work hard to ensure the Cubs stay long term. We will also explore any additional opportunities that come up for expansion of spring training. Once again, we have a great area in the Gateway. Downtown assets we'll emphasize, local tourism. The last thing is, we talked last time about get it done. I believe we're on the path to getting her done, to setting this environment, to taking us to the next level. I believe that with this community, we can do great things. You know, I had one question I asked my dad, who spent a lot of time as superintendent of Mesa Schools. And I knew the junk he went through as superintendent. I knew the nasty phone calls, the name calling, all the great things that come with public service. And I asked him one question. All the benefits, right? You certainly expand your vocabulary, that's for sure. I asked him one thing before I decided to run. I said, you know, after 35 years or so in public service and all the junk you went through, was it worth it? And you know, he took a little while and contemplated, and he said, you know what, when I look at what we were able to accomplish, yeah, it's worth it. I'm going to tell you today, I can't promise you a whole lot of stuff, but I can promise you one thing. It's worth it. Investing in Mesa is worth it. Giving your heart and soul to our community is worth it. Committing yourself to building a better community is worth it. This community is worth giving to, it's worth sacrificing for, it's worth investing in. It is worth it. I promise you that. We have a great and better future. We have a future that we don't even realize how unlimited it is. We have incredible opportunities that are sitting there just waiting for us to take advantage of. And unlike most communities who are just struggling with how do I deal with the challenges, we have a set of opportunities that more than offset the challenges we are due. It's worth it. Please, thank you for your commitment. By being here today, you've shown that you care about this community. Take that to the next level. Raise the bar. It's worth it. Thank you very much.
Well, the technical problems are continuing. Hello? Okay. So, Mayor, maybe we ought to just pull up the stool here. You've got a mic. I'm
I
going
got
to
a
have to. Over the last month, the Chamber has asked members of the business community for their questions, and we did build this as a dialogue. So for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be reading off or asking the Mayor some of the questions that came from you and your colleagues in the business community. And you did all receive index cards, and you're welcome to get your questions up here. But I can assure you I've got about 20 minutes to do this, and I am not going to get through all of these questions. So what I'm going to do is try and arrange with the Mayor and his staff an opportunity to get all of your questions answered in the Mesa Republic and at mesa.azcentral.com. So here's the first question. Somebody actually gave it to me as I was walking through the hall. What are you doing, and what can we do to make downtown a destination for Mesa?
Well, very quickly, I think we talked about some of the things we're trying to do. Number one, to emphasize what we have downtown. The other thing is to build on our assets, and the most important thing is to create a regulatory environment that that inspires investment. You know, we have a lot of empty buildings in downtown Mesa. If you go in there right now, we will say, please come into this building after you put in a $500,000 fire suppression system and after you tear out 4 walls and do this and this and this. We have to realize that there are cities around this country that are much older than we are that have figured out a way to take old buildings that have served very well for many, many years and have been able to adapt to new safety and building codes and have made that transition without creating an economic disadvantage. That's one of the main things we're working on in downtown. I think if we make it easier for people to restore some of those buildings, if we focus on making the Mesa Arts Center and other things the great assets we are, that investment will follow.
Thank you. You mentioned Gaylord and an election coming up, and just to make sure that we're all caught up on what's happening now in early voting and what will happen on Election Day on March 10th, can you explain briefly why the election on Gaylord and what happens after that election?
Okay. We're having an election on Gaylord because our city charter requires an election whenever there is a benefit given to anyone when it relates to a sports facility or a convention center, among other things. Gaylord has a very big convention center, and there are benefits that the city is providing to Gaylord. The great thing about those benefits, though, is that that none of them affect our general fund. What we have decided to do is to stay away from things that would create an economic risk or a drain on our city finances. Everything is incremental. By focusing on bed taxes, which are paid by tourists, non-Mesa residents, and those bed taxes right now that are paid by tourists do not go into our general fund. They go for the promotion of Mesa as a tourist destination. The primary benefit we're providing to Gaylord is that we are allowing those bed taxes that are generated by their property to be used by them for the promotion of not only Gaylord, but the East Valley and Mesa as a whole. So there is no drain on or threat to Mesa's general fund. It's the kind of partnership I believe is not only beneficial, but it's the right way to go about things. And the fact of the matter is that, believe it or not, the more bed taxes we remit back to Gaylord so they can promote the properties in the area more, well, guess what? That brings more people in, so it's not only generated by the property, but it also is self-generating and will grow as is. I hope we pay them a lot of bed taxes. Now, to get you in mind, put one thing in perspective. Right now, it's stated that the projections are that there will be $50 million in bed taxes that are remitted as part of this benefit. That sounds like a big number. Do some simple math and you realize that in order to generate those bed taxes, which are 3%, that's billions of dollars of room revenue. That's millions of visitors. In order to reach the $50 million, you're talking about millions of visitors paying billions of dollars in room revenue. And all the sales tax and other benefits they bring in go right into our general fund.
We had another election a couple of years ago on a thing called Waveyard. So could you give us an update on where that is?
The latest update I've gotten is that the developers are continuing to invest in plans. They continue to invest in seeking financing. I think it's no secret to anybody that nobody's getting financing right now. And Waveyard is certainly not immune to that. They are working primarily with foreign sources of financing, European, Middle Eastern. Well, we have a double whammy in that and the reason for that is because of the exchange rate difference. Believe it or not, an investment in something like Waveyard in Mesa, Arizona is a very good deal for anyone who deals primarily in euros and other things like that because of the exchange rate. But with, things were looking really good for them, the Middle Easterners at least, when gas was at $4 a gallon. At $2 a gallon with the entire economic recession, money has just tightened up throughout the world. They are still working. They are still investing. Most people don't realize that they're frustrated that this program hasn't started. Contractually, Waveyard is not required to start their project until next January, till the 1st of 2010. So they're not even out of their contractual period yet. This was anticipated that it would take them time to pull all this together. Will they be successful? I don't know. It depends on the markets. It depends upon whether there's money available. If money becomes available, I'm convinced that they will be successful. If money's not available, money's not available. And that's just where it is.
We have a kind of a related question. Tempe Marketplace versus Mesa Riverview. What can we do to speed up development that can attract people as a weekend evening ambiance at Mesa Riverview?
Oh, I'm sorry, I stepped on you.
That's okay.
We've taken the first step. And I think if you're not familiar with Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill, everyone in here know who Toby Keith is? Well, a lot of you do, a lot of you don't. Toby Keith is one of the top-selling country artists in the last 20 years. I mean, we're talking 30 million out records. He is an icon. He is a superstar. There are 3 Toby Keith I Love This Bar and Grill in the country. Most of them are associated with a casino, hotel, or other venue like that. They are looking to make this the 4th signature restaurant. This, we were just in it yesterday, this thing is huge. What, 30, 40,000 square feet? 850 seats, a stage, a bar that is shaped like a guitar that has almost 200 stations. And they even serve Shirley Temples for those of you who don't teetotal. We're talking a huge facility. We're talking a facility that is a regional, that is has national. People will actually, and this is not a stretch because it's happening in other areas, people will fly into town and visiting the Toby Keith facility will be one of their top priorities. They will visit Scottsdale, they'll visit Phoenix, Glendale, but they'll make it their way over to the Toby Keith thing because it's similar to a lot of the other big destination properties that you have. It's opening in the next month, 6 weeks, and it is right there, just due east of the Bass Pro Shop. For some funny reason, there's a connection with bass fishing and Toby Keith. I can't figure it out. Believe it or not, in Oklahoma City, they're about a half mile apart or almost a mile apart, the Bass Pro and the Toby Keith facility. They have a shuttle bus that literally runs. Kid you not. And one thing that appealed to them was the fact that, hey, no shuttle bus. We can walk across the parking lot. It's literally 100 feet from Bass Pro. We're really excited about what that might bring and how that might spur additional activity in the Riverview downtown area. Oh, and by the way, Tempe Marketplace, eat your heart out.
Okay, let's jump over to transportation for a moment. Is the city doing anything to expand light rail and other forms of public transportation in Mesa?
Right now, this is a regional activity, and it's part of Prop 400 and Metro and RPTA, which are regional activities. And you all voted and approved Prop 400 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. And our expansion is funded by that. Right now, funding is in place to extend light rail from its current Sycamore and Main trailhead down to about Horn. And we have been studying which route that will take, whether it goes straight down Main Street or whether it goes Main Street and then deviates and goes up First Street or First Avenue. That's our big decision as it relates to light rail. Metro is presenting the findings of their studies within the next month. I think the 1st of March, 1st to middle of March, they're presenting. The City Council will then make a decision as to which route, if we choose light rail. The other option is just to continue bus rapid transit with dedicated lanes in that same area. Right now, light rail, I was just talking to Mr. Rick Simonetta. If you haven't ridden on the light rail, it's a great experience. Right now, the activity in light rail is surpassing by several thousand passengers a day the estimates. So early indications are that it has been more successful than was imagined. We think that will continue. And by the way, one of the major points of success is our eastern end, which we believe is the start of the line, and the ridership is proving that. Our Sycamore station is one of the busiest and one of the most active and the most successful. And by the way, for those of you who have problems with light rail and have been visiting our friends at the IHOP, as of yesterday, the City of Mesa did place Porta-Johns at the Sycamore station. And I want to tell you, this is your city government responding to your needs, because in Mesa, we believe that bladders matter.
I was hoping we'd get some news out of this. An economic development question. The majority of economic development has been focused on intellectual and service industries. What focus can the city bring to heavy industries?
Well, to me, heavy industries, how you define that. For example, we have CMC Steel, which is contributing, what's that plant investment? It was up on the slide. It's $120 million. Out south of Gateway, CMC Steel is building a huge furnace facility. And what they do is they're going to take old cars, literally shred them up, melt them down, and create rebar. And this plant will provide rebar for the entire state of Arizona from recycling old cars. An expansion of $100+ million, hundreds of jobs. We have an area that we are focusing on south of Gateway for our heavy industry. For other things, once again, we believe the best thing we can do in Mesa is to create an regulatory environment that makes it easy for people to do business. Regardless of whether we mentioned Bob's Auto Shop and CMC Steel. Well, believe it or not, we'll create more jobs from the Bob's Auto Shops of the world than we will from CMC Steel. So we have to create an environment where people can expand to that third or fourth bay. It's an example we used last time, where people can come in and they can establish that presence and do so with a process that facilitates them meeting our standards. We're not going to lower our standards. We have found in Mesa that when you lower standards, it's a short-term hit. It's like a sugar hit in the morning. It feels great for right now. What do you do about 10, 11 in the morning? You get that low, and the low is bad. In Mesa, one of our problems is that for many years, we had a sugar hit. We let people do whatever they wanted to in the name of free market. The problem is that people left their junk with us. They took their money, they went away. They're not here anymore. We're left with the challenges of empty spaces, of declining neighborhoods, because they were underbuilt, they were not built to a standard. Our job is not to overregulate, but it is certainly not to lower our standards. We're going to demand the standards which this community deserves. We're going to demand those standards, but we're going to create a process and a system that helps people get there, that facilitates them, that doesn't tell them no, but tells them yes, and here's how we're going to help get you there.
There's two related questions here. Several members of the audience are calling attention to half-empty strip malls and shopping centers, and then in the same breath, they're also calling attention to just blight in general. So this is a two-parter. What's the city doing, if anything, to fill these empty strip malls, and what is the city doing generally about blight?
Well, one of the things that I think that is a misnomer and that is just not reality is that the city somehow can drive the market. Governments do not drive markets. I think the Soviet Union tried that real well, and one of the dangers that we're debating right now is the balance between capitalism and government regulation. Governments cannot, never have, never will be able to drive a market. We cannot force filling a shopping center that's empty. We can't force people to spend money when they're not prone to spend money. What we can do, going back, is once again set the environment where people will be willing to invest, where people will be willing, and we can, because we set up barriers against investment. We treat, when people come into a blighted area, we apply the same rules that we do out there on a cotton field, where there are no challenges. We're working on a new, on new rules and regulations, on a new zoning code that actually gives people an incentive, and not a money incentive, but incentive through regulation, through recognizing the challenges of redeveloping blighted property. We need to make it as easy as we can. I mentioned in downtown one of the challenges we have. Those areas are always going to remain blighted as long as government sits there and puts barriers to investing. If I tell somebody, here, take this wonderful old 80-year-old building, oh, by the way, you have to bring it up to the same standards as someone who would build a brand new building, what are they going to do? I mean, that doesn't take, it's not rocket science to understand that they're going to build the new building out in a strip center. That is not beneficial to us long term. We need to remove those barriers, not sacrificing our standards of public health and safety, but making it a way to where they actually will want to invest in the 80-year-old building or the empty strip center.
Thank you. And I'm going to have two more questions because I know everybody needs to get started on finishing up their work week. How is the faith-based community going to or be willing to help as a combined effort? Who would organize this effort? Are there specific goals in mind? This group is big enough to tackle some very large needs.
One thing we've been doing, and Councilmember Dina Higgins, who had a conflict this morning, and so she couldn't be here, is leading a lot of this. What we're doing is that we recognize that we have a huge faith-based community here. And I know for some people they start to cringe when they hear that. There's a couple things we're trying to accomplish here. Number one, this city was built, and we shouldn't deny the fact we were built on a spiritual basis by churches of all denominations, and we continue to thrive because of our thriving churches. Now, in these churches, we don't agree on a whole lot. We don't agree on how to pray. We don't agree on how to get to heaven. We don't agree on what it takes to get to heaven. But what we do agree on is the requirement and the need and the blessings that come with serving your fellow man and serving a community. What a gigantic resource that we have available, where everyone in the faith-based community can agree on the benefits of community service. What a huge army we have of people that will come together to work on neighborhoods that have struggles, to work on people that are in need, to provide this kind of service. I've been meeting over the last month and a half, 2 months with a wide variety of spiritual leaders in my office. One of the things is asking them, what is your congregation? Where are the needs? What do you need? What do you have to offer? And it's been very interesting. From the Baptist to the Mormon to the Buddhist, you know, it's interesting. At the most base level, their wants and needs are very similar because at the end of the day, they're people, they're families. And we're trying to bring those together. We have a volunteer service office that we're already starting to refer to these churches that they are calling. We're focusing on certain projects. Tomorrow we have a huge project that a youth group from the LDS Church is doing, I believe in District 2, a neighborhood cleanup. We've had the Methodist Church do a cleanup. We've had a non-denominational church do other projects. We think that by bringing this army together, we can create a great feel and a service environment in our community. And there will be ongoing efforts to do that.
And let's have the last question directed at the business community. What can the business community do to help you build a better Mesa?
I'll tell you, one thing you can do is what we mentioned last July. Believe in us. Believe in your community. Continue to invest in your community. Be proud of your community. Like I said, we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of things that we need to work on. But this is a great place. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to do business. It's a great place to succeed. Be loyal to your community in the sense that you recognize it for what it is. Like I said, the only time I've felt disappointment is when I have people who somehow shy away from their community, who somehow think that they need to think of their community as something less than it is. The best way you can do it is to invest, both with your money, with your time, with your talent, most of all with your heart and your soul. If you as a business community will invest in Mesa, this will create the kind of environment and the kind of activity that will build upon each other. And the best thing you can do is that when you're talking to your friends, your neighbors, your associates from other communities, don't apologize for Mesa. Celebrate Mesa. Celebrate what we have. There's nothing we need to apologize for. We've always been a great community. We are a great community. We will continue to be a great community. But we need your help in building that culture of celebration, that culture of pride, which I think we deserve. And as we move forward, as we build this better Mesa, others will catch on. I've already seen a change in 6 months. I've seen a change in attitude among many people. I've seen a change in excitement. I've seen a change in willingness to give. And I see it when I meet with the pastors and the preachers and the business people. There's a groundswell of excitement that exists in this community. We need to grab onto that and write it. We need to write it for all it's worth, and that's where you can help us. That's because I can stand up here and say all I want, and if there's no action down there, then it's all for naught. So please, continue doing the good things you're doing. Take it to that next level.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.